Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2014 Tiffin Allegro Motorhome, we're going to be showing you how to install the SumoSpring helper springs for the front axle. But before we get into that, let's take a moment, check these out, and make sure they're going to work for you. Underneath your motorhome, this is what the SumoSprings will look like once you have them installed. And it's a really simple concept, but very effective. So more or less, these are just going to replace the factory style jounce bumpers. What these are for, the factory ones, are just to prevent your front end from bottoming out. They're not there to help provide any additional support. And this is going to fill that void and accomplish that for you. And huge improvements on these motorhomes, because honestly, a lot of these chassis, you know, they're up to the task, but there's a ton of room for improvement, and chances are pretty good if you're watching this right now, probably come to realize that, you know, driving these big coaches, especially on windy days or twisty roads or bumpy roads, whatever, it's not the most comforting experience. You know, a lot of times you're worn out by the time you're getting to your destination. These will definitely help out with that. From my experience with these, where they really shine is helping to reduce sway. So what I mean by that, these motorhomes are so top heavy, right? It's a big old brick going down the road, and I'm sure you've experienced it. You make that turn and everything's just sloppy, right? The motorhome wants to tilt and it's all over the place. With these in place, what'll happen is when you start to get that body roll, right? The motorhome wants to come over, these will provide stability and want to level it back out and keep it straight and centered and everything else. So from my personal experience, that seems to be the biggest impact that these have, but they're going to help with other things too. You know, when you hit bumps or something like that, these are going to kind of help cushion everything and, you know, keep your suspension working as it should. These are going to be a two-piece design, which I think is a good idea. That way, you know, if you ever do use your stabilizer jacks or anything along those lines and really increase the distance between the bottom of your frame and the top of your axle, you know, like how we have here with our stabilizer jacks down, you're not going to stretch out this SumoSpring or overload it or anything like that. You know, it'll simply just come apart, disengage, nothing to worry about. Then once you're hitting the road again, you know, all the weight will be back down, creating a one-piece deal here and giving you that support. These are going to have what's called a progressive load control, which means they're going to provide more support when you need it, and the other way around as well. So let's say, for example, you know, you really load up the front end with something or add other components to the front, which gives it more weight. You know, these are going to accommodate for that and be progressive. You know, they'll give you that additional support when it's there and everything in between. With that said, these are going to have a 3,000 pound maximum weight capacity at 50% compression there. But with that in mind, you know, these aren't going to add to your motorhome's weight carrying capacity, if that makes sense. That's just how much weight these are able to handle. One of the best things that I like about these is that they're maintenance free. So once they're installed, you're done, right? You don't have to worry about them. And honestly, that's kind of a rarity on a motorhome. You know, you got a lot of other stuff going on. Last thing you want to have to deal with is maintaining something else. So that's where I think these have a big advantage over, let's say, an air spring or something, where you have to adjust your air pressure, dial it in, worry about leaks, you know, so on and so forth. Once these are in, don't even have to worry about it. You know, don't even think twice about having to put something else on the list to take care of. And because what they're made out of, it's a type of urethane, they hold up really well against, you know, salt, oil, stuff you'd find on the road. So they'll stay in good shape and not get chewed up, you know, after a couple years of driving. At the end of the day, a really nice enhancement to your coach. You know, they're maintenance free, they actually work and help with your driving experience. So what more can you ask for? As far as the installation goes, You know, believe it or not, it's really not too bad. You don't need crazy special tools or anything like that. But don't get me wrong, you're still working on a big motorhome. It's a little time consuming, put it that way. But something that's doable, especially if you're mechanically inclined and got a decent set of tools and whatnot. If not, you know, you can always feel free to check out our dealer network, and hopefully that can get you pointed to someone who can install them for you. But if this is something that you're going to tackle yourself, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead and get started on them now. To begin our installation, we're going to be working underneath the front of our motorhome, and what we need to do is raise the motorhome up to where the suspension is going to be more or less unloaded. So you can use your stabilizer jacks to raise it up, and what I do just in the front, what I do is raise it up enough to where the front tires are just barely touching the ground still. That'll be sufficient enough. And then of course use the other safety measures just in case those jacks fail or something like that. So put your heavy duty jack stands or whatever you got underneath there just as a backup. Underneath the motorhome now, you know, just above our front axle, we can remove these factory jounce bumpers. From this point on, whatever we do to one side of our motorhome, we're also going to do to the other side because it'll be set up the same. We grab a 13 millimeter, and I have a 3-inch extension. There's a bolt up in there. We're going to remove this, and if the nut on top, if it just wants to spin, you can hold that steady with a 15. Go ahead and get this stuff removed. You can grab our upper bracket, and these two holes, you can take this hardware that they give you, just put them through there, and this is going to get bolted up just like that. And then we can take the hardware that we removed from our factory jounce bumper and use it to secure it back to the frame here. We can grab the top half of our SumoSpring now, and there's some holes in it there with threads, and those are going to line up with the bolts in our upper bracket. And so we'll go ahead and get both of these started in tight. Definitely don't have a ton of room to work here, so just take your time and make sure the bolts are going in straight and everything. Once you get them both in there hand tight, you can come back with a 9/16 wrench, and I like to use the open inside of it and come in kind of from the back there. Seems to be the easiest technique. We're going to tighten these all the way down, and I like to do it evenly too, you know, so hit one bolt 4 or 5 times, go to the other side, turn that one a few times, just to kind of draw everything up evenly. Once you get that top one all tightened down, you can grab the lower bracket, and this part here, that's going to face towards the back of the motorhome. You're going to have 2 slots here, all right, and this slot that's going to be closest to the inside or towards the center of the vehicle, that's the one we're going to use. You're going to take a bolt, put it up through there, and then take the bottom half of the SumoSpring. There's a nut inside of it. We're just going to get this started hand tight. We want to be able to you know, these pieces to stay connected, but still be able to kind of slide this back and forth to adjust it if need be. So So I went ahead and just set our bracket on top of the leaf spring assembly, and the reason that we left this loose is so we can adjust it. You know, if we just bolted it down right here, you know, it wouldn't line up that great with the top one. So by being able to kind of slide it and get it to where it lines up good. And then I'll just use a marker here, put a couple of reference marks. That way we kind of line it up, keep it lined up. And then, you know, we can remove this, keep our marks lined up, and completely tighten that bolt down with the 9/16. With that lined up and tightened down and everything, you know, we're happy with how it's going to engage the upper spring. I set this back on our leaf spring pack, and then you're going to have real long carriage bolt. We'll drop that down through towards the front. There'll be one just on the other side of it too. Then you have a shorter carriage bolt. That is going to get dropped down towards the back there. You take these straps now, and you know, you're going to have one for the back, one for the front. They're going to be set up the same, but you'll just put these over the carriage bolts. Take a hex nut and get that started hand tight. I already got the front one started. Like I said, it's the same deal. And once that is done, we can snug them all down with a 9/16. With all the hardware tightened down though, that's really all there is to it as far as getting these in place. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the SumoSpring front helper springs on our 2014 Tiffin Allegro Motorhome.